Did you have some trepidation before you met him then?
I had trepidation about getting too close to him and ending up discussing politics.
Right.
And I was afraid I'd get to like him, and that would be a problem.
The world knew Ricky Nelson as the clean-cut teen idol who seemed to have the perfect life. But behind the hit songs, Hollywood fame, and charming smile was a side that few people ever truly understood. Years after working closely with him, Angie Dickinson reflected on the man she met during the making of Rio Bravo, offering a different perspective on the star millions thought they knew. But was Ricky's private world really so different from his public image? Before Ricky Nelson became one of America's biggest music stars, he was already famous without even trying. Born on May 8, 1940, into one of Hollywood's most recognizable entertainment families, Ricky grew up in a world where cameras were simply part of everyday life. His parents, Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, were already successful performers, and their family radio show soon became the television hit The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Millions of viewers welcomed the Nelson family into their homes every week. For most children, home was a place to make mistakes in private. For Ricky, home was a television set watched by the entire country. As he grew older, audiences watched him transform from a shy young boy into a handsome teenager. Fans admired his calm personality, easy smile, and natural charm. He didn't seem like a celebrity trying to impress people. Instead, he looked like someone they already knew. That simple image became incredibly powerful. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1957, Ricky performed the song I'm Walkin' on his family's television show. The response was immediate. Viewers rushed to record stores, and what started as a television performance quickly launched one of the hottest music careers in America. Hit after hit followed, including classics like Poor Little Fool, Travelin' Man, and Hello, Mary Lou. Before long, Ricky Nelson wasn't just a TV star. He was one of the biggest teen idols of his generation. To millions of fans, his life looked perfect. He had fame, talent, wealth, and the support of a famous family. Every magazine seemed to feature his smiling face, and every new song climbed the charts. But public success often hides private pressure. Imagine spending your entire childhood knowing that every smile, every mistake, and every decision could become part of your public image. Ricky wasn't simply growing up. He was growing up while America watched. Do you think fame changes people, or does it simply reveal who they already are? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As the years passed, Ricky continued building an impressive career, proving he was more than just a television star. Hollywood soon noticed his growing popularity, and one major opportunity would place him alongside some of the biggest names in the film industry. It was during that project that Angie Dickinson would meet the young star, and the impression he left on her was very different from what many people expected. By the late 1950s, Ricky Nelson had already conquered television and music. Most young stars would have been satisfied with that level of success. But Hollywood had bigger plans for him. In 1959, Ricky was cast in Rio Bravo, a Western directed by the legendary Howard Hawks. The film featured an incredible lineup, including John Wayne, Dean Martin, Walter Brennan, and Angie Dickinson. For a young performer in his late teens, stepping onto a set with stars of that level could have been overwhelming. Yet those who worked with Ricky noticed something unexpected. He wasn't loud. He didn't act like the biggest celebrity in the room, and he didn't seem interested in proving he belonged. Instead, he listened. Angie Dickinson, who played Feathers in the film, later spoke warmly about Ricky when reflecting on their time together. She described him as polite, respectful, and easy to work with. While audiences saw a confident teen idol on magazine covers, she remembered someone much quieter behind the scenes. That difference caught people's attention. On camera, Ricky looked relaxed and fearless. Off camera, he often appeared reserved. He carefully watched experienced actors like John Wayne and Dean Martin, learning from them rather than trying to compete with them. John Wayne himself reportedly appreciated Ricky's willingness to learn. Instead of acting like a pop star who had wandered onto a movie set, Ricky behaved like a student eager to improve his craft. That humility helped him earn respect in an industry where young celebrities were often judged harshly. But there was another side to his personality that many fans never noticed. Despite his enormous fame, Ricky seemed uncomfortable with constant attention. Interviews from the era often showed him answering questions with short, thoughtful responses. He rarely chased headlines or tried to create controversy. Friends and colleagues frequently described him as private, even shy. This was a sharp contrast to the image the public had created. To millions, Ricky Nelson was the smiling face of youthful success. But those who spent time with him often saw someone carrying responsibilities that most people his age could hardly imagine. He had been famous since childhood. Every career move was watched. Every relationship made news. Every success raised expectations even higher. As Angie Dickinson looked back years later, her memories didn't center on gossip or dramatic stories. Instead, she remembered Ricky's kindness, professionalism, and quiet nature. Her reflections suggested that behind the fame was a genuinely decent man trying to navigate an extraordinary life. But even the kindest people can struggle under impossible expectations. And as the 1960s unfolded, the entertainment industry began to change. Musical tastes shifted. New artists arrived. The teenage idol who once seemed unstoppable suddenly faced a challenge he had never experienced before. The spotlight that had lifted Ricky Nelson to incredible heights was about to become one of his greatest burdens. If you enjoy discovering the untold stories behind famous people, subscribe because these are the stories most people never hear. His records sold in the millions. Fans packed concert halls wherever he performed. His face appeared on magazine covers across America, and his name became almost impossible to escape. From the outside, it looked like he was living the dream every young musician wanted. But the music world was changing faster than anyone expected. The early 1960s brought a new wave of artists with fresh sounds and different styles. Then came the British invasion. Bands like the Beatles transformed popular music almost overnight, and many of the teen idols who had ruled the charts suddenly found themselves fighting to stay relevant. Ricky refused to give up. Instead of trying to copy every new trend, he worked to grow as a songwriter and musician. He experimented with country rock and more mature material, determined to prove he was more than the clean-cut teenager audiences had first fallen in love with. It was a bold move, but not everyone was ready to follow him. Many fans wanted the same Ricky Nelson they had known years earlier. Record companies also expected him to deliver familiar hits. He found himself caught between two worlds, trying to evolve as an artist while carrying the weight of an image created during his teenage years. It was a difficult balance. Behind the scenes, the pressure continued to build. Ricky had spent nearly his entire life living in public. There was little separation between his career and his personal life. Reporters followed his relationships, his career decisions, and even his family life. In 1963, he married actress Kristen Harmon. Together, they built a family and welcomed 4 children. From the outside, they appeared to have the perfect Hollywood life. But like many celebrity marriages, life behind closed doors was far more complicated than magazine headlines suggested. As the years passed, reports of personal struggles and growing distance between the couple became more common. Eventually, their marriage ended in a highly publicized divorce. For Ricky, another deeply personal chapter had become public entertainment. And yet, through it all, he kept performing. One of the clearest examples of his resilience came in 1971 during a concert at Madison Square Garden. Ricky performed some of his newer songs, hoping audiences would embrace the artist he had become. Instead, parts of the crowd loudly demanded his old hits. The experience was painful. Rather than responding with anger, Ricky turned that disappointment into creativity. He wrote Garden Party, a song inspired by that night. Its famous message, "You can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself," became one of the defining moments of his career. It wasn't just another hit. It was Ricky speaking honestly about the pressure of living up to other people's expectations. Everyone faces moments where it feels impossible to move forward. Have you ever had to keep going even when others expected you to stay the same? Let us know in the comments. But despite his determination, there were still parts of Ricky Nelson's life that remained hidden from the public. Those closest to him saw a thoughtful, private man whose quiet nature was often misunderstood. Years later, as people like Angie Dickinson reflected on the man they had known, they helped paint a fuller picture, one that was far more human than the flawless image fans had once believed. And that story would become even more meaningful after tragedy struck. By the 1970s and early 1980s, Ricky Nelson was no longer the teenage sensation who filled magazine covers. But something important had changed. He wasn't chasing fame anymore. He was chasing authenticity. Instead of trying to recreate the image that had made him famous, Ricky focused on making the music he believed in. He continued touring across the United States, performing for loyal fans who had grown up with him. Some came for the old hits. Others came because they admired the artist he had become. Behind the scenes, friends often described Ricky as thoughtful and surprisingly humble. He had spent decades in the spotlight, yet he rarely acted like someone who believed he was above everyone else. Those who worked with him frequently remembered his quiet manners, his professionalism, and the respect he showed to the people around him. That picture closely matched what Angie Dickinson later recalled. When she looked back on their time together during Rio Bravo, she didn't describe a troubled celebrity hiding dark secrets. Instead, she remembered a young man who was kind, respectful, and eager to learn. Her reflections offered something far more valuable than gossip. They reminded people that public images rarely tell the whole story. In many ways, Ricky's secret side wasn't scandalous. It was deeply personal. He was private in an industry that rewarded constant attention. He was sensitive in a business that often celebrated confidence above everything else. And he carried the pressure of lifelong fame with far more grace than many people realized. That doesn't mean life was easy. Years of nonstop work, changing trends, and personal challenges left their mark. Yet Ricky continued doing what he loved most, performing live. Every concert became another chance to connect with audiences, not as the teenage idol they remembered, but as the musician he had worked so hard to become. Then came December 31st, 1985. Ricky and several members of his band boarded a vintage DC-3 aircraft on their way to a New Year's Eve performance in Dallas, Texas. During the flight, a fire broke out inside the cabin. The pilots attempted an emergency landing near DeKalb, Texas. The plane crashed. Ricky Nelson was just 45 years old. News of his death shocked fans around the world. For many, it felt impossible that someone who had been part of American culture for so long was suddenly gone. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from fellow musicians, actors, and longtime friends. They didn't simply remember the chart-topping singer or the television star. They remembered the man. A man who stayed polite despite enormous fame. A man who kept working even when the spotlight faded. A man who never stopped believing in his own music. Looking back, Angie Dickinson's memories became even more meaningful. Her words reminded people that the real Ricky Nelson wasn't defined by headlines or public expectations. He was defined by his character, something only those who truly knew him could fully appreciate. Sometimes, the biggest secret isn't a shocking revelation. Sometimes it's the quiet goodness that never makes the front page. And that may be Ricky Nelson's most lasting lesson of all. When people remember Ricky Nelson today, they often think of the smiling young man with a guitar, the television star who seemed to have it all, or the singer whose songs became part of a generation's soundtrack. But those who knew him best remembered something deeper. They remembered his character. As the years passed, musicians continued to credit Ricky as an important influence. Long before country rock became a major force in American music, he was blending rock, country, and pop in ways that inspired artists who followed. His recordings still reach new listeners, proving that genuine talent doesn't disappear with time. His work on the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet also left a lasting mark on television history. Few performers successfully made the jump from child star to music icon and then to respected actor. Ricky managed to do all three while growing up in front of millions of people. That journey wasn't perfect. He experienced incredible highs and painful lows. He knew what it felt like to be adored by fans and questioned by critics. He understood the excitement of success and the loneliness that can come with living under constant public attention. Yet he kept moving forward. Perhaps that's why Angie Dickinson's later reflections continue to resonate. Rather than focusing on rumors or sensational stories, she highlighted the qualities that often go unnoticed: kindness, humility, professionalism, and quiet confidence. In today's world, where celebrity headlines often focus on controversy, those memories offer a refreshing reminder that not every secret side is dark or shocking. Sometimes, the hidden truth is that a person is far more genuine than the public ever realized. Ricky Nelson's life also carries a lesson that extends far beyond Hollywood. Many people spend years trying to live up to other people's expectations. They were labels they never chose and struggle to become the person everyone else wants them to be. Ricky experienced that on one of the biggest stages imaginable. But through songs like Garden Party, he left behind a message that still feels relevant today. There comes a time when living honestly matters more than pleasing everyone around you. That may be his greatest legacy. Not just the hit records, not just the television fame, but the courage to remain true to himself, even when the world expected something different. As new generations discover his music and films, they'll find more than an entertainer. They'll discover a man whose quiet strength often spoke louder than his fame ever could. And perhaps that's the real story Angie Dickinson helped preserve. Not a hidden scandal, but the memory of someone whose true character was revealed only to those willing to look beyond the spotlight. Ending. Every celebrity has two stories. One belongs to the headlines. The other belongs to the people who truly knew them. For Ricky Nelson, those stories were not as different as many expected. Behind the fame was a man remembered by friends and colleagues as respectful, hardworking, and quietly determined. Angie Dickinson's reflections didn't expose a shocking secret. They helped complete the picture of a man whose greatest qualities rarely made the news. His voice may have been silenced far too soon, but his music, his influence, and his example continue to live on. And if Ricky Nelson's journey proves anything, it's that a person's greatest legacy is often found not in the applause they receive, but in the lives they quietly touch along the way. But this is only one of many remarkable stories hidden behind Hollywood's biggest legends. Another famous star's life reveals an even more surprising journey, one that changed the entertainment world forever.